I'd like to introduce Daniel Twa. Daniel was diagnosed with renal cell carcinoma in June 2010 at the age of 53. He lives here in Vancouver with his wife of nearly 29 years, Brenda, his son, and as he describes him, his always entertaining and bed-hogging 2-year-old French bulldog, Bella. Daniel is going to share his journey with kidney cancer with us, and this is one of those important stories that we want to be sure that we share because this is a person who can talk your talk and he's walked your walk, and it gives you an opportunity to realize that you are part of a community of people who understand the journey you're on. So, Daniel?
Catherine, thank you very much. I have a speech, but I'll try to just memorize it and talk to you. There's a lot of people that I need to thank. My journey wasn't by myself. Certainly to KCC for their fantastic support and for this opportunity today. I feel very, very privileged to be here. To Dr. Black, my uro-oncologist, who did so much to make me better, usually at ungodly hours in the morning, for his skill and for his progressive thought. To my lovely wife, this would have been a very different journey for me without her support and her love and her reassurance. Certainly our son, who was wise beyond his years, who was often the voice of wisdom and logic. My fabulous sister-in-law, who is a physician or a doctor, an orthodontist actually, and she helped us navigate the medical landscape. My brother Steve, my sister Kate, her partner Ronan, and a good family friend who were always so positive through this. And finally to my dad, who really shouldered a burden for me in the business that really allowed me to focus on getting better. As Catherine said, my journey started about 3 years ago. The Friday of the long weekend in May, I walked into the ER at VGH with right flank pain. The ER physician managed my pain. Then I had a CT scan done. That came back and it showed that I had a kidney stone. He said, to my surprise, that I was being scheduled for lithotripsy Tuesday. So I was pretty surprised that things were moving pretty quickly for me. I had more good fortune. One of Dr. Black's associates, Dr. Ben Chu, did the lithotripsy. And I'm pretty sure he saw something during the procedure that gave him cause for concern, because in addition to a couple of routine follow-up exams after the procedure, he ordered another contrast CT scan done. And then on June 30th, my wife's birthday, my wife and I went in to see Dr. Chu, and he confirmed that the CT scan saw a mass on my left kidney. He said it was about 5.5 centimeters in diameter, and then the fateful word came. He said it was likely consistent with cancer. So after the initial jolt, I think I dealt with it rather naively. I did some rudimentary math. Dr. Chu gave me a number. He said that there was an 85% likelihood that it was cancerous. So my math was 100 minus 85. There's a 15% chance that it's benign. Let's go with that. I can tuck that number under my arm, go to Denial's house, knock on the door, and go in. Dr. Chu gently brought me back into reality by saying, no, you got to fill out some paperwork, and we're going to be scheduling you for surgery at UBC. And he said the likely procedure would be a laparoscopic radical nephrectomy. He said the tumor was quite close to the main renal artery. Well, I understood what nephrectomy was, but I wasn't quite clear on laparoscopic. So I went home and I did some internet research. I didn't particularly like what I saw, so I decided to go back to Denial's house and stay there for a while. Dr. Chu also ordered a renal scan for me to figure out how my kidneys were functioning relative to each other. That test showed that my left kidney, although burdened with the tumor, was functioning at a higher level than my right. And part of that could be explained by the trauma that my right kidney had gone through with the lithotripsy, but not all of it. That result, coupled with the fact that Dr. Chu was having a hard time getting a surgery date for me at UBC, led me being referred to Dr. Black. And I have to tell you, that was a lottery win for me. That wasn't a scratch and win. That was more 649. My wife and I met with Dr. Black. and he outlined his treatment plan. And he said, although the tumor was a bit larger than he would have liked, he was going to do an open partial nephrectomy. And the simple goal was to save as much renal tissue as possible to help me deal with any further renal dysfunction that I might have in my future. He outlined some of the complications, some of the benefits, and he said one of the downsides to the open procedure relative to the laparoscopic was that my recovery would be delayed a couple of weeks. But he always found an upside. He said that would be another 2 weeks that I didn't have to operate a vacuum cleaner. So I said that was an easy sell. Dr. Black also ordered a chest x-ray series done. He said if perchance the tumor was cancerous and if it was spreading, it would likely target my lungs. Unfortunately, the first set of x-rays came back and they were inconclusive. There may have been an indication of a lesion in one of my lungs. And when Dr. Black phoned and told me that I needed another set of x-rays, it was really my low point on this journey. It meant that denial had left me, the tumor was cancerous, and that it had spread. And I was about to sit down at a poker table where the stakes were a lot higher and the players were a lot better than I was. And I didn't know if I had the resolve to deal with that. As fortune would have it, the second set of x-rays came back. They were negative. So I didn't have to test that result, and I feel blessed for that. I went through the pre-admission clinic at VGH and was green-lighted for surgery. The surgery date was set for September 10th. I made it in as far as the perioperative center when Dr. Black came and paid me a visit and said that my surgery was being postponed because of time constraints. Secretly, I was elated. Denial was back. He says, there's really not a reason for me to have this surgery. My surgery, I guess the delay really allowed me to better prepare myself for the inevitable surgery. And what it also allowed me to do, it gave me another chance to figure out the logistics of Pico Salix, a GI prep. And surely to God I could get it right on the third try. So surgery was rescheduled for the 20th, so my wait wasn't long. I was the first patient in that OR, I think. I remember being wheeled into the OR. It's pretty chilly in there. They don't give you a lot to wear, and they don't let you keep it on. The anesthesiologist put in an epidural line to help me manage post-operative pain, and then 2.5 hours later I woke up. I was in recovery. They managed my pain, and once I was stabilized, they took me up to the urology ward, and I was still kind of semi-lucid with the pain meds. But I do remember with huge clarity Brenda taking my hand, my wife, and giving me a little kiss on the cheek, and I felt a huge sense of relief. I had made it. I had come through it. Dr. Black came in a little while later, and he said that he thought the surgery had gone well. The tumor looked to be encapsulated, and that he had taken about 1/3 of my kidney with the tumor. Excuse me. But he would know more when the pathology report came out. So I was in the hospital for 5 days, and you wonder how you're going to make the transition after you're discharged. How are you going to mimic the care they've given you in the hospital at home? But I had my wife and our son doing the heavy lifting for me. And you take little steps. The first couple of days were difficult. There was a lot of pain. It was difficult to sleep. It was difficult to eat. But you got better. And by the 10th day after surgery, when I went to see Dr. Black to review the pathology report, I could at least waddle to his office, and I felt somewhat normal. Dr. Black told us about the pathology report. My wife was there, as always, and he said that it was looking good. There was no evidence of metastasis. My margins were clear. And he said that I had a fairly rare form of renal cell carcinoma. The cell type was a chromophobe cell. This cell type was unlikely to metastasize. It was really a homebody. It really had no aspirations to take a road trip and look at other parts of my body, and I can't blame it. My wife, I think, would have used another term instead of homebody. She said it was probably a couch potato cancer cell, which was kind of indicative of my nature. So that was our kind of light moment. 6 weeks after my surgery, I went to see Dr. Black, sort of get the green light to live life normally. He said he saw no problem. I could maybe start exercising again. So that was at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's usually when I saw Dr. Black, early in the morning or really early in the morning. So I went home. I did a light exercise routine. Felt pretty good. Went to the washroom. Then I noticed I had quite a bit of blood in my urine. So what I did immediately, contrary to what Dr. Black told me to do, contact him if I saw anything untoward, I invited Denial over and I said, listen, this is going to resolve itself. It's not a problem. It hadn't resolved itself at noon when my wife came home to check on me, but I talked her out of talking me into going to the ER. I wasn't so convincing at 6 o'clock when she came home because she frog-marched me over to the ER. They did a CAT scan, a CT scan, and they found that I had a pseudoaneurysm in one of my blood vessels. One of the blood vessels was ballooning out, and blood was leaking through that quite profusely. So I was admitted. The following day, I had an embolization done. A small coil was inserted upstream of the pseudoaneurysm. The only downside to that was that I would lose some renal function downstream of that initiated clot. But I'm so grateful to Dr. Black and Dr. Chu because I had at least some kidney function to lose, to spare. And that really brings me to where I am today. I see Dr. Black on an annual basis. We have a treatment plan, and my health is pretty good. My GFR is clawing its way back to normal. And if I can leave you with a couple of thoughts, one is to tap into your support team. It was incredibly important for me. I don't consider myself, my trip with RCC, to be that arduous in terms of the physicality of it. I was an early stage patient, but my support team really helped me with the psychological aspect of being diagnosed with cancer. And I would ask you, if you haven't been there, if you're a patient or as a caregiver, to visit the KCC website. It is an incredible resource to help you manage that, to help you manage your situation. And if I can leave you with one final thought, and it's a quote that I gleaned from that website that I felt so uplifting and so inspirational, and it was from Dr. Robert Buckman, who was a keynote speaker at the very first Kidney Cancer Canada Patient Education Conference, and he said that cancer is a word, it is not a sentence. I would encourage you to embrace that and go forth and be positive. Thank you very much.